Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to another video. Now, when I talk video games, I usually talk about retro video games. Heck, I think the newest game I reviewed was a Wii game. But I'm making an exception today. I'm a big fan of the original Harvest Moon games, now called Story of Seasons, and a new game just came out, and I feel like talking about it. But before I go any further, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I make some great content about video games, Star Trek, and whatever else I feel like talking about. Be great to have you aboard. Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life. Back in the early 2000s, Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life was released on the Nintendo GameCube, and was followed by the girl version, Another Wonderful Life, and the special edition PS2 version, which isn't very special. I mean, it wouldn't be so bad if it just ran a little faster!
Must go faster.
The A Wonderful Life series was unique in Harvest Moon in that it featured the passage of time. Where characters for the most part stay ageless in Harvest Moon, the A Wonderful Life series goes through the entire life of the protagonist farmer, from marriage, to starting a family, to growing old and elderly. Heck, even the town and other characters age as well, making it feel more realistic than other Harvest Moon games. It might not be the most traditional Harvest Moon game, but honestly, it's a pretty good game to bring to modern consoles. So naturally, when I heard about a remake in the works, I knew I was going to get it. And for an additional $10, I got the premium edition. While I may end up doing a full review of this game later on, for right now, here are my first impressions as a veteran Harvest Moon Story of Seasons player of Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life.
Hello there.
First of all, I'd like to take a few moments to talk about the premium edition that I pre-ordered. This isn't a true unboxing video since I already opened up the box before filming this. I needed to play that game, dang it! So what did one receive upon pre-ordering the premium edition? Well, obviously, the game. And check this out, the game comes with a manual! I miss these! Sure, it's not the full-size manual that came with games in the past, but I appreciate that it's even here. It's nice and colorful and gives you a basic rundown of what to expect in the game. I like it. But what else came in the box?
What's in the box?
How about a goat plushie? Look at it, it's got a little beardo! I do miss the days when Harvest Moon games came with larger plushies, but still, it's a goat and it's cute! And also in the box is a cloth poster, and it's a pretty decent size and the fabric is pretty thick. The poster features the main protagonists in the game with the bachelors and bachelorettes and some of the kids that you can have in the game. Not entirely sure how to display it yet, but I like it. Overall, I'm happy I paid the extra $10 to get the premium edition. It wasn't that much more than just the game itself, and I got some nice goodies. Alright, that's enough of that. You came here to listen to my first impressions of the game itself. And you know what? If you're going to do a remake of a game, this is how you do it. I seriously had a tough time prying myself away from this game in order to make this video. Playing Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life is basically what you would get if you popped in one of the GameCube games, only better. Let's start with the way the game looks. Not that the graphics in A Wonderful Life look bad, far from it. But for a game that's nearly 20 years old, it looks like a 20-year-old game. The character movements are pretty stiff, and the colors, while having a more realistic color scheme, don't really pop a whole lot. In the remake, though, everything is colorful and bright, which goes well with the stylized characters. Even with the passage of seasons when colors are changing, it's still pleasing to the eye. Even in the colder months when the scenery isn't colorful, it doesn't look dull. The character movements are also a lot smoother and feel more natural when they walk. Just from an appearance standpoint, this game looks pretty good. Now I also want to talk about the characters. I like how most of the characters maintain their original designs with very minor differences. I say most because some characters have been completely overhauled, but I'll get to that in a moment. One of the things I wasn't thrilled about with Story of Seasons: Friends of Mineral Town was that the characters looked so different from their original designs, to the point that they barely looked like the original characters. That being said, the redesign did fine by Rick. I mean, look at him. The A Wonderful Life remake, on the other hand, mostly maintained the original character designs, but polished them up a little bit. For example, Molly, previously known as Muffy, doesn't look that much different, but I like the small details added to her outfit. She's still the same character as before, just polished up a little bit. And sure, I miss Chris's skirt, but I still know that this is Chris even with a pantsuit. These are the characters I've known for the past 20 years. Some characters, on the other hand, like Cecilia, previously Celia, have the same outfit because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the same goes with Tay and Lou, previously Tim and Ruby, and Gary, previously Galen, and Nina. Heck, Takakura has been wearing that same white tank top for the past 20 years, and I'm okay with it. Some characters, on the other hand, have been completely redesigned, and if I'm being completely honest, it can be hit or miss with me. Let's start off with the good. I'll admit that the Bachelor set in A Wonderful Life was never a favorite of mine. Of the 3 original Bachelors, Marlon was probably the most normal, but look at him. He's an Elvis impersonator.
The king lives 2 doors down.
Now? Why, hello there.
Damn.
Was Marlon, now called Matthew, completely redesigned and bears almost no resemblance to the original character? Yes. Was the redesign a vast improvement over the original? Absolutely. So that's a redesign that worked for me, and worked it did. But now let's take a look at Gustafa. Here he is in the original game. The guy is clearly a hippie. Now? Oh, a hipster. Yeah, that's a hard pass for me.
I believe I'll pass.
But to be honest, there really are only a handful of characters who were completely redesigned. Most of the characters look like their original designs, with some minor updates. Well, looks are all fine and dandy, but what about the actual gameplay? Well, gameplay is roughly the same as the original, but better. It's like all the little annoyances from the original games were fixed in the remake. Finally, you can charge up your tools! This makes growing crops so much easier than the original game. And you'll need to grow crops because you'll want to pick up some cooking skills along the way because there are recipes scattered across town. And the game keeps track of the recipes you've learned. Even fishing is a lot easier. No more staring at a river for hours on end waiting to catch a fish. Fish come by pretty easily in this game and make for some great gifts. And speaking of gifts, I feel like befriending the townspeople is a lot easier, or at the very least, it's easier to keep track of everyone's affection level, though the hidden diaries for the potential spouses are still in their hidden spots left over from the earlier games. Teehee, Matthew feels 5 hearts about me.
Raise your hand if you're in love.
So, yeah, you have to get married pretty early on in the game like the originals, convincing one of the local singles to marry you within a year. I decided to go for Matthew because...
Damn.
Hey, Matt, come here. What? I'm busy. Here's the deal, little bro. If Janelle's ever in a bind, you be sure to give her your full support, alright? What? Why? So, yeah. Well, I've got work to do, so... Bye. Oh, he's so cold and distant. He's perfect. Yeah, and I like to think a lot of these cutscenes have the same tone as this scene.
Is Otto your first or last name?
Yes.
Now, I spent a lot of time gushing over this game, but surely there are some downsides. After all, I'm constantly saying that nothing is perfect and that even my favorite games have flaws. And yes, Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life does have its downsides, but they're pretty minor, even to the point of hardly being worth mentioning. I wish the herbs around town had real names like the original game. Mugwort is now Aromatic Herb, Royal Fern is now called Spiral Herb, heck, even mushrooms are called Round Shrooms. I get that a lot of flowers in Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons are fictional, but I feel like the flower names feel more like real flower names, while the herb names are kinda lazy. I'm also not a super big fan of small fish being called Lil. Would it kill them to completely write out little or even small? It's just, why? Why Lil? I'm also not exactly thrilled that not only do I have to fertilize the entire pasture, which, to be honest, isn't a new thing, but cutting down grass to make fodder means I have to re-fertilize that tile. Oh, great. So I either have to fertilize each tile for 20G each, or buy fodder at 20G each. Not entirely sure how I can save money on this. Well, luckily, it's not so bad. I fertilize my fields occasionally and mainly leave my animals outside for nice weather. I really haven't needed to use much fodder, and my field hasn't run out of grass yet, so I guess this is more of an annoyance than anything else. Lastly, well, this really isn't a flaw, I missed the original theme song. Every time I started up the original games, the game's theme song would play, and I came to associate A Wonderful Life with that specific song. In the remake, it's just one of Gustafa's guitar solos. I mean, it's a nice song, but I miss the original song. I also noticed that the version of Breezy, the song that plays on the farm by default, is the PS2 version rather than the original GameCube version, though it's been remastered so it sounds nice. Do I still love the original? Yes, but for a remaster, this is pretty good. Overall, I'm impressed with this remaster, but one question still remains. Are the originals still worth playing, or should newcomers just stick with the remake? And I'm really torn on this. I'd never say that it's not worth playing the original games, especially since I spent a lot of time playing the originals and enjoyed my time with them. With maybe the exception of the special edition version on PS2. If you know, you know. But at the same time, the remake is really good. The remaster does have some new features that I don't care all that much about. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I can actually do without the character creation feature and ultimately just make my character look like the main characters on the box. But the remaster does fix a lot of annoyances that I had with the original games. But on the other hand, some of the dialogue in the remaster feels very 2020s, making me prefer some of the dialogue of the original games. Though if I'm being fair here, it's not too bad in the remaster, but it's enough to notice. I'm only in the second chapter of the remake, and admittedly I never beat the original games since they're so long. But unless the game goes downhill later on, I'm almost willing to bet that the remake is the better game. As it should be, a remaster should improve the original game. A fresh coat of paint, fix some of the cracks, all while maintaining the structure of the original. Again, I might end up doing a full review of this game later on, and hopefully I can actually get to the end of it. But so far, Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life meets with my approval. It maintains the spirit of the original game, all while improving the annoyances of the originals. But now what do you think? Have you played Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life? Have you played the original Harvest Moon games on GameCube, PS2, or even the PS4 port? Do you love them? Do you hate them? How do they compare for you? Is the Story of Seasons game a faithful remake of the original games, or not? What do you love about the remake? What would you change? And what are some of your recommendations to newcomers? Please leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another video. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time,
I'm a low-tech kind of guy, Dad.